I am walking on this lonely road.
I was your typical depressed adolescent, and my mom she was a pretty bad alcoholic drug addict. My dad wasn't around much, so I was home alone. So I had a troubled childhood, growing up in a bad neighborhood.
Still I can see.
One of the things you understand about the way Gaylen grew up, he grew up in a dysfunctional family. You know, he loved his mother dearly, but you know, he would basically be watching over her, trying to pull the cigarettes out of her hand so she wouldn't burn down the house when she'd fall asleep on the couch. And things like that was very, very hard for him, you know, growing up, because he obviously loved his mother very much, and they went through a lot together.
Started ministering 1980, and I pretty much went on alcohol sabbatical around 1996. So that's when I had to quit because of the alcoholism.
And I forgive myself for all the pain.
Looking back on it, I think that when we started having children, it brought up a lot of feelings in Gaylen. Childhood memories, feelings of abandonment and rejection and things like that. Right around that same time, he started experiencing a lot of rejection from church pastors, leaders. They got the impression that he was becoming too bold, and the things that he would say, the messages that he would bring. There were a couple of influential pastors and leaders who decided they needed to pull the rug out from under him, and he had a lot of concerts canceled, and he was feeling a lot of the pressure of supporting a family. I found out later that that was when he started drinking at night.
Got to the point where alcohol became a really good comforter, and I started really getting hooked on it. The problem is that there was a lot of condemnation about it. I'm sure not going to go to the church to try to help me with this, because all they'll do is condemn me. It got to the point where it got so bad that I had to go into treatment. And when I went into treatment, I couldn't get past step one, and I could never get well in the world, and I couldn't get well in the church because I was terrified to go to anybody. Nobody else is admitting it, you know, and I'm sure there's tons of Christians out there that are having the same issues, but they're not admitting it because they're terrified.
Once I said I love you.
It got to the point where I was drinking so much, making my wife's lives and my children's lives incredibly miserable. I finally just couldn't take the hypocrisy anymore, and I just said, I gotta stop doing this. Relationship ended my first marriage, and it did irreparable damage to my children. It was bad.
He loved his wife and his kids. His family was very dear to him, but he kind of exhausted that relationship.
It was really hard, yeah, because of my dad's drinking. I mean, I don't like to say it because I'm really excited to see what my dad's doing now, and I'm really proud of him, but growing up, it's like if I try to think about it, it's just painful.
You know, when I first met Gaylen, I thought, okay, well, he's this young boy that never really healed, and his heart was so huge and his love for God was so incredibly enormous, but everything was overshadowed by the hurt. I really felt that God brought us together for that healing. But it was like I would pray and I would think, if I just did this and I made all this work together, that he would be in a place where he could move forward. And I finally realized that I couldn't do that for him. It was about him healing, and the only way that was going to happen was with God back in his life. We actually got to a point where I told him that I couldn't sit and watch him destroy his life with alcohol anymore. He was killing himself.
I need to know I'm loved.
We had broken up. She had gotten pretty sick of it, and we were pretty much, she was ready to divorce me. She had the plans in motion. I was living in my own apartment. I wasn't doing any ministry at this time, and I couldn't stop drinking. I was resigned to just dying in my alcoholism. Hundreds of times I tried stopping, I couldn't. And I'll never forget, I was on my knees and at the end of my rope. But this time it was different because I really wanted a miracle. I laid a fleece out to God and I says, you know, if you restore my marriage, I promise never to drink again. It was weird because a month later after that prayer, and I hadn't had anything to drink, which was weird, my wife was still, in my mind, or nothing had changed. I'll never forget her walking up to me in our living room at the time, and she goes, I want to get back together. I like, what? Just like, really? It was such a weird experience, and it wasn't a bolt of lightning, it wasn't the heavens opened or anything like that. There's the desire left. And that's a miracle, because in my 17 years of drinking, the desire never left. And I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be gone for a week. Okay, fine, then it'll come back. Months went by, more months went by, a year went by, 2 years. To this day, almost 6 years later, I'm like, this is really a miracle. This is what redemption's all about, right? It's not like I'm not tempted with a lot of things, but alcohol?
What really matters.
And he can do the same for you guys out there that are hiding in the pulpits or anywhere else. You know what's sad is that the church should be a refuge for people like me, your pastors that are terrified. I mean, I did a Celebrate Recovery at our church, and we were considered those screwed up people down the hall, you know, and let's just be happy, enjoy joy thing, you know, and there's people that are singing praises to God that are addicted to pornography, to alcohol, to drugs, you know, and they're terrified to come out with it. And if there's anything I could say to you guys out there, you know, to just find someone who you can trust. You know, confess your faults one to another and pray for one another. It's getting it out, sharing it. If I was able to do that back in all those years, I think it would have helped me. But there was no one that I thought was there that I could trust. So give me a call. I'll talk.
Well, I don't want anyone to think of my dad as like this a horrible person because it's like, you know, if we're all really honest with ourselves, I think it'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who could consider themselves worthy enough to be called a Christian performer or who could go out there, because I think in order to be able to minister to people in the world, you have to be able to relate to them at any level. And seeing what my dad has come from, where he was, you know, even through all of that, something beautiful came out of that.
You can see that throughout the period of time where what was going on in his heart was coming out in song, and that's really the gift that God gave him. And I think that's why throughout the years he's impacted so many other people, because they said, you know, I have a CD or an album of his from 20 years ago or 25 years ago, and I've worn it out, because every time I need a little bit of that healing, I listen to that song, and it lets me know I'm not the only one.